And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening and thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Here.
Counselor Silly,
Here.
Counselor Powers,
Here.
Counselor Scamperly.
Here.
Counselor Stevenson,
Here.
Counselor Tebow,
Here.
Counselor Trim, quorum present.
Thank you. And before we move forward this evening, I'm going to turn this over to City Manager Fonda Cronus for an introduction.
Absolutely. I am very pleased to introduce Tyler Park, the city's new economic developer. Tyler, will you stand up? And if you wanted to say a word or two, step up to the podium. We're very happy to have him aboard. We're hoping that this will mean bigger and better things for the economy for the city of Ogdensburg.
Good evening. My name is Tyler. Thank the council for having me. Thank City Manager Cronus for having me. And like he said, yeah, we're looking to do some great things for Ogdensburg. We're looking to, get us a nice downtown district set up. We're looking to work with some businesses, work with some, private business owners, some citizens, see if we can't get the camaraderie back going, get everything settled and, just get that hometown feeling back in Ogdensburg. That's what we're really looking for. We're looking to get the city back right again, have some tourists come back in and really highlight the historic district and the historical feel of Ogdensburg and be the city on the river again. So again, I'm glad that you guys have me here. I'm glad that Mr. Cronus brought me aboard and I look forward to working with all you guys.
Welcome aboard. Thank you, Tyler. At this point, we have a resolution to adjourn to executive session. I will introduce that. Whereas City Manager Fonda Cronus requested an executive session with members of the Augsburg City Council to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. And whereas New York State Open Meetings Law permits City Council to adjourn to executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that City Council adjourn to executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. And be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Silly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
approved.
And I'd just like to note that council will be inviting Jim Reber and his legal team who are employed by the city to aid in collective negotiations. We're also inviting Fire Chief Stull to join council and we will now return. Go to executive session.
Oh, you'll be first. So we just gotta wait for into this platform.
Okay, so let the record reflect that upon returning from executive session, all members of council are still present, and they note that Councilor Tripp has joined our meeting. We have two presentations tonight. We'll begin with the drinking water and lead line survey update from Charles Pryor with EDI.
Good evening, folks. Good to see you again. We're going to chat with you and bring you up to speed where on the status of the water system improvements project. But ahead of that, you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to give you an update on the water services inventory work that's been ongoing now for a little over a year in this city. We started this effort back in April, May of 2024. The city's required through the Department of Health to do a complete inventory of all the water services in the city. There's about 3,600 of them in the city. And they require you to verify the material of each water service on both the public side as well as in the private side. So this has involved a lot of effort, a variety of approaches to verify the water services. One of which is several letters have gone out for surveying. People should take photos, submit a form back to the city website, or contact the DPW office or a member from EDR to help assist them through that process. We've gotten to the point where we've exhausted most of the traditional methodologies on resolving this. We have a letter prepared working with City Manager Cronus that we're going to mail out tomorrow as a final push to residences to complete the survey on the water services. In conjunction with that, we're doing some further desktop work, referred to as predictive modeling. As we know, on the private side, about 3,000 out of the 3,600 at this point. Public side, we know about 1,400 out of the 3,600 side. So we still got a little ways to go. We have some latitude with the methodologies we can incorporate to get there. Give us probably a couple more months to go through the responses that we get from the people surveys and our desktop predictive modeling efforts. And I think we're gonna come back and be pretty close to being close to final with this exercise. The results so far, knock on wood, is there's been no lead found in the system. The majority of the services are coming back as copper, which aligns well with the legacy of the DPW and the implementation on the use of copper starting in late 60s, early 70s. So thus far, it's been a very, very good outcome for the city. Not looking like there's very little to no water service replacement that's necessary at this time. But again, we have a little ways to go with it, so we'll provide you a further update here probably when we get to the fall.
Can I just ask you a quick question? That was 3,600 water services in the whole city, not just private as opposed to.
So the 3,600 is the total,
Okay.
and then we have to verify on both sides of the line. So it's a total of 7,200 count.
Okay. Total 72.
And I would say in the letter that's going to go out, we've gone through this a couple of times now. The city's in full compliance with the Department of Health and all the notifications and reporting that you've had to make. But one of the final steps, we waited till we got pretty deep into it to do this part, but there's a possibility we may have to go in and do some potholing to verify some of the services that's in concert with doing the predictive modeling. We're going to take all the data that we have, we're going to do a desktop model, and we have to calibrate and verify that model. So we figure somewhere, we got to see what the numbers look like, but maybe somewhere between 10, maybe 50, maybe up to 20% of those models will have to be verified in the field to prove out the model to the Department of Health. So there will be further steps associated with this. Potholing, kind of referred to as hydro excavating. The city has a machine, or you can have a third party come in. It's a little bit invasive, but allows us to go down where the water services, to clean the lawn, where the curb stop, the shut off valve, and then we can see both sides of what the public side and the private side. Exactly how many and when, I want to comment on that when we get to that point. Okay. So we started working with the city on an engineering report for your drinking water system all the way back in 2019 timeframe. The city received a grant through USDA Rural Development to do an engineering study on your water system. This process has been going on for a few years now. Primarily, as many of you remember, there was quite a capital initiative on the wastewater side of things. So we said, well, let's get through one of these critical public infrastructure items and then move on to the water system. So we stayed current with it, that being current with regulations as they've evolved since 2019, and in discussion with your system operators and the Department of Health who comes in and does an annual inspection of your drinking water, system. So tonight, we delivered an updated draft of the report to the city manager's office a few weeks ago now. I wanted to take a few minutes to bring you folks up to speed with that report assessment and discuss with you what the next steps for that will look like. So tonight, we're just going to briefly kind of go over the existing system, what the scope of the work and the engineering assessment was, the results and takeaways of that assessment. And we'll talk a little bit of dollars and cents on it, doing some of the next steps and answer any questions that you folks may have. So your existing water system serves the approximately 10,000 residences here in the city. You draw water out of the St. Lawrence River. You're permitted, you have a water patrol permit with the DEC to take out up to 5 million gallons a day out. Looking at the historic records of what you utilize or your historic demand ranges. It's 1.8 to 2.4 million gallons a day. So maximum about half of what you're permitted to withdraw from the river. The major components of the system consist of your raw water intake. This is simply a pipe out into the river. Your lift station or your pumping facilities. It's housed in a building right on the shore of the St. Lawrence. We have a slow sand filtration plant, a high lift pump station, 2 elevated water storage tanks, and of course your distribution system, which will have your water mains, valves, hydrants, and your services. The water system, the majority of it was constructed, the original intake, raw water lift station, and the slow sand filter plant was originally constructed in 1912 as a slow sand filter plant. The good news is it works very well. It's passed the test of time, as you say. But however, as you can imagine, being built 113 years ago, some of those components, major kind of the bones of it are still in place today. Yes, there's been modifications to it. Yes, there's been revisions made to it. Yes, there's been upgrades made. But the bones of your system are pretty strong. And we'll talk about that here in the course of the next slide. So I mentioned the DOH inspection. They come in and do an inspection annually. The most recent one's conducted in March of 2025. 3 main bullet points out of that inspection. The storage, elevated storage tank at the filter plant has visible signs of corrosion both externally and internally. This is consistent with a water storage tank inspection that was done back in 2022. So that result was not surprising. They did note that the required inventory of your service lateral materials, the update that I just provided when you folks are at that. And then also too, it did note that the operation and maintenance of the facilities were noted as excellent and in pretty sound shape. So with the engineering assessment, we went through whole system evaluation and came up with recommendations for improvements. We evaluated all of your structures, your building systems, and your treatment process. So really from tip to tail throughout each part of this. As part of it too, the city did conduct an inspection of the raw water intake. A third party was brought in, a diver crew with a camera to go up the intake pipe, get video of it. They did clean it out, remove a lot of sediment material. In the photo that you see there with the brown rusty spots on it, that's actually taken from the inside of your water tank, both before and after the sediment removal was done. And also an inspection was done on each of your elevated water storage tanks by a third party as well. And I mentioned earlier, but we did take a look at current regulations and what may affect you in the infamous 4-letter PFAS. It's common these days in drinking water and new maximum contaminant limits associated with that both at the state and the federal level. I have a slide on that. So this slide has a lot of bullets on it, but these are the engineering assessment, really key takeaways. First one being the raw water intake pipe is sound. Well, due to its age, under 13 years old, it's estimated to lost about half of its original wall thickness. So it's still in sound shape. Of course, some of the buildings and some of their components are showing their age. Talking about the roofs, deteriorated coatings, paint, and outdated energy measures in the doors, the windows, some of the electrical and HVAC systems associated. The size of your existing slow sand filter system is sufficient. There's no need to make it any bigger, which is good. But the process to clean the filter is manually intensive. Access to critical, some of the piping and the valving is essentially buried, very, very tight corridors, confined space, if you will, difficult access. There is a lack of required head loss measurement, flow control to the soil sand filters. When the sand filters are drained down, that drains to your sanitary sewer system. So that would be, we thought about this as it relates to some of the stormwater work in the city and separating out. This is kind of a low-hanging fruit, if you will, to separate that off and give it to storm and remove it out of the sanitary system as it shows up at your wastewater treatment plant. It has to go through the treatment process. It's 800,000 gallons each filter. In the 80s, a secondary treatment system, a diatomaceous earth system was installed. That was to take expand the capacity of the plant from 3 MGD to 5 MGD. With your flows, your demands being less than 3 MGD, the DE system, while it could still be functional, is not necessary to operate because you don't hit those demands, so that's not being utilized. I mentioned earlier, but the storage tanks do display signs of corrosion, both internally, and externally. And the inspector did know thinning paint surface as well. Your electrical system, the distribution is adequate. You do have backup power in place for upon the loss of utility power. The HEV is showing signs of its age, and there is some modernization required just relative to instrumentation and communication. There are some measures in place associated with that, so remote monitoring is in place, but there are some upgrades that are going. The next slide here shows some of what I mentioned a little bit ago. The picture on the top left is the access into one of the sand filters there. It's a set of doors, then a set of stairs. The middle picture on top is the access to where you get to a couple of critical valves, very tight quarters down there. On the bottom left are pictures of surface corrosion from the interior of one of your storage tanks. And on the right is a set of your sodium hypochlorite disinfection, heat pumps. One of the pumps was showing signs of leakage on this the day that we On a regulatory front, from the time we performed the initial assessment till now, there's been a lot of chatter out there and new standards set for PFAS, PFOA. That's been a series of emerging contaminants. The state enacted their own standards, and EPA recently came in and set a more stricter standard. Those numbers are on here. The numbers for PPT, that's 4 parts per trillion. 10 parts per trillion, very, very, very low level, very strict standards there. The city had undertaken and done some raw water samplings, went out to the St. Lawrence, took raw water sampling back in. When we look at the data from 2080 and 2021, those results are under the proposed federal standards of 4 and 10. Those standards go into effect in 2029, however, the city should continue to sample and monitor that. I would say if you get a hit on any of those contaminants, the state has put tremendous measures in place to fund it, but treating it is not something your existing facility will be able to do. There's newer technologies, whether it's referred to as GAC or granular activated carbon, as they're typical these days to treat drinking water to remove the PFAS and the other illicit contaminants. But so far, your raw water sample results are under. So on the recommended project scope, we got 5 bullets here. We'll get into the specifics on the next slide. But we're looking at replacing, upgrading critical system infrastructure, the equipment that has exceeded or will soon exceed its useful design life. When we first started this, I think some of the mentality with the city at the time was you were looking to be maybe more proactive with your public infrastructure in lieu of what had occurred with the wastewater treatment plant, which was very, very capital intensive. And had to wait until things were almost an emergency basis of your catastrophic basis. Here, your facility works very well you're in compliance with standards. The DOH inspections, reflect that as well. But still, obviously with aged facilities comes the need for capital investment in upgrading here. So we're talking about bringing up to current design standards, replacing aged equipment, improve operational facilities, improve maintenance access, and bring things up to code compliance for access and operator safety. The last bullet here also talks about metering to bring you in alignment with New York State water conservation law and water conservation requirements. And that's, I would say, throughout the course of developing the scope of this work and talking about what alternatives we evaluated for the various components, metering was always one of those things that's on the radar. We always felt that if your water withdrawal permit was opened up by DEC for modification as a result of this project, they would essentially require you to do metering. We feel at this point, with the approach to it, mitigated that risk, but we still know that it's something that the city should think about over the longevity of it. Metering could bring, benefits just as making more awareness on the usage, of the water that people use. Therefore, as you get metered, demand usage tends to get reduced, and this is the state's approach in water conservation measures. There are various programs out there to pay for meters, but there's select users, typically large users in the city, industrial or commercial users who are metered today. On about 270-ish are per meter today, whereas the remainder, 3,430, are primarily small commercial or residential, not metered, today. We did do an analysis as part of our study, just very holistically looking across your system as to what your average day demand is across your entire user base, and knowing what you use on the metered side. That did some quick math, and the amount per EDU or per user is significantly higher compared to other communities that are metered, probably double or so on the usage. So on the scope, this is what we're talking about, is to line the existing raw water intake pipe. At one point, we were considering actually a parallel intake pipe. However, that would be considered a new intake in the regulator's eyes, we believe, therefore would open up the permit. So we found a way through the inspection and the results of that to mitigate that risk through the repurposing of the intake pipe and lining it to restore that the original, back to the original wall thickness. So on top of that too is to provide new intake screening. There's no surprise while they were doing the work to clean the intake pipe, a lot of zebra mussels were found, not surprising. But there's new methodologies that intake screening to mitigate the effects of having zebra mussels out there. Typically, there has to be some form of zebra mussel control too, so very common throughout the seaway, like Ontario. Secondarily, is you have a single raw water transmission main that pumps the water from your intake structure down along St. Lawrence up to the filter plant. There's only one pipe that's a really critical piece of infrastructure there. We definitely want to clean and line that pipe as well. It's both those pipes, intake pipe and the raw water transmission, original to the project when it was built in 1920. Both are cast iron, both that have stood the test of time. At the raw water pump station, doing a variety of improvements down there. Critical components have been upgraded over the years with pumping equipment and the addition of generators. But as you can imagine, there's other improvements that are necessary to get the age of it. We do recommend continuing to utilize the slope stand filter process. However, there are some improvements around that being improved access through a filter piping gallery, as well as some modern instrumentation and measurements for loss, control of flow to each one of them, and measurement of head loss across each one of the filters. That'll help better optimize the maintenance schedule and the cleaning schedule. The filtered water transmission main is showing signs of significant age, and the plant drain piping as well, and it's difficult to access. Your high lift pump station does warrant some improvements there, both building and some equipment. The statement just building improvements. There's a lot of structures that have roofs on them, and entrances and exits and whatnot. A lot of that stuff will have to be improved due to its age and condition. On the elevated storage tanks, we did look at both replacement of them as well as rehabilitation and repainting of them. This is typical of these structures on every couple of decades. depending on weather conditions and maintenance and whatnot. Every 20, maybe 15 to 30 years tends to be the range. I think you folks fall easily within that range, probably more on the upper end of that 20 for a rehabilitation. And then last but not last year is the services. Next slide. So what does it all boil down to? We've when we did the original project cost estimate back a few years ago now. Every 18 to 24 months or so, we've revisited it on behalf of the city and updated it to bring current, as you can imagine, from the time of 2019 to 2025. Obviously, we've seen a significant adjustment in the market for capital construction projects, but we updated this a couple of months ago now, so we feel pretty good about it. We think if the project gets deferred a year, 18 months, 24 months, obviously we're going to want to revisit it. But we're at 26.9 million these days. There's further conversations that need to be had depending on the avenue that you take for funding, grants and whatnot, how the project could potentially be phased, and what exactly the priorities will be associated with that. So similar to the wastewater project that you folks undertook, there's several different funding programs available for you. Some are what we refer to as traditional funding, that's your drinking water state revolving fund. You're into the acronyms. You may remember on the wastewater side, we had the CWSR, that's clean water. This is drinking water administered through the same folks at EOC in Albany. That's low interest loans and grants for the drinking water program. You have your WIA, that's your Water Improvement and Infrastructure Act. That program is open now. Applications are due in September. This year, they are covering up to $5 million or 70% of your project costs. They have the Northern Regional Commission through the Catalyst program, through the public infrastructure improvements that will fund up to $1 million or so. Folks have been successful with that program in the past. And then there's friends of the federal government at USDA Rural Development. We did confirm with them recently that the city is still eligible for this program. They did fund this study for you back in 2019. We do visit them from time to time, depending on what the city's needs are with public infrastructure improvements, and whether we qualify or not. And I was told through our local contacts at the Canton office that you do qualify for the program for the water contract. So they do grants and loans. There's some math that has to get done depending on the total funding project, eligibility, depending how much you would qualify for on a grant loan project, and it's all subject to what's approved out of Washington D.C. and distributed amongst each of the regions on contract for the public infrastructure. But we did visit RD back there in the wastewater project, and they were willing. I think it was about $1 million grant at the time. That was based on 2019, 2020 numbers or something like that. So we have to look at the current circumstances around it to see what you could qualify for. So again, these are various programs. Like I mentioned, some are finance, some are grant. Lumped in there too is the BIL, that's the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law money that's available as well. That falls into the SRF program. But get up to $5 million for WIA, $1 million in OC. Still have quite a gap, about $20 million to bridge there. There's obviously a documented financial need there, so I think it's pretty highly likely to be qualified for RD. A grant loan package, and then you'd have to compare the loan package to the state's loan package. And we did this analysis as part of the wastewater project to figure out what's the best long-term deal for the city, depending on interest rates and durations of the long-term development. We have 30 years, 38 years, poverty rate versus 0%. So there's a spreadsheet where there's calculations that have to get done in council for the city as to what is affordable. Last slide here on your next step. So it's obviously positioning the city for grants and financing. One of the programs is open currently, that's the WIA. Applications are due in September. There is some prerequisite work that the city would have to undertake to qualify for that. That's completely an environmental review or seeker. We're prepared with the documents to share those with the city to guide you through that process. It's pretty straightforward. We've done it many times here. And then two is considering what overall of the project you move forward with an authorizing resolution. You know, of that as well. We do got to get input on the report from the Department of Health and our friends in Albany and EFC, and then for the city to determine the process forward with the project. Any questions or discussion?
One of the things that you said about rehabbing or repaving or storage tanks, it seems to me just 5-6 years ago, didn't we, and time flies, so I might be off, didn't we rehab the one up on Ogden Street? Repainted it, I know it had leaks or something, and we went in. Okay,
Yeah, that's at the filter plant, so.
it's a filtration.
Yeah, yeah. You have an underground tank there, sterilization contact tank, disinfection.
Okay. You know, you look at the cost, 26.9 to 27 million. And then you compare the potential grant. Drop the block every number. But the city should probably invest. And it's tough to do. And I'm worried that this number is going to rise significantly over the next 3 or 4 years. Consider increases in costs and things like that. And I hope we factor that in when we apply for grant money and things like that, because sometimes you start a project, you get approved for a couple of grants, as you know, and a few years down the road, we've got a few more. We're almost ready to do the project, and here we go. And then we get a couple more, and all right, now we only get the world's money. And then the bids come in, and well, we're 10 million short. And so it's this, you know, and we're sitting here with our wastewater treatment facility. We took several pumps out of the equation, and now we're getting more grant money to another $1 million for this pump and that pump. And if we do this, I'd like to be in a different situation where get it paid for, we're done, we're not continuing the struggle.
I think maybe just a reminder, that's a really simple wastewater project, that sort of strategy and vision was laid out, you know, pretty early on with the numbers. So you did, thankfully, I think you only had to go back and take an additional little bite at the apple, you know, adjust your bond resolution, and then finishing well under the bottom of at the time. So yeah, that's super important. That work was all done in 20. Today, precipice of closure. So yeah, 7 years.
So that project turned out to be less than our original bond.
Yeah, I think you folks bonded for 40. Something around there. Total project is around 45.
And the contractor stuck to his number, even after COVID, which was a gift to us.
So it was pretty big because we did the job in the fall of, we kicked it off in January 20 and then March of 20.
Things put on hold for a while.
Yeah, no, those are all super important decisions to work through your other providers.
I could just follow up to Dan's comment. So in your estimation, what are you looking at as far as a percentage for capital costs, equipment? You know, 26.9, you know, we start applying, say, tomorrow, hypothetically, within a year. I mean, what would we, any idea what we'd be looking at potential increase in costs?
On this number?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's contingency, you know, built into it.
Yeah,
We're at
the unknowns, right?
Yeah, we're at report level, so it's pretty high. It's about 30% today. So, you know, if you take that number, reduce it, take 30% off the top, about 6, you're about 20 million total. Usually we like to think of these large capital projects about half and half equipment, half labor. That tends to be about where it is. The bulk of this, you can see in the cost sheet though, is on it's a lot of meters. Those meters, They go in and replace a couple of years ago now on the industrial side. So, to incorporate that into this job, it's, dare I say, a significant. But yeah, that's where the discussion, Council Powers comes into the phasing, the strategy. Can we break some of this out? Can we think about it, sort of separately? One thing, it's always come up every time we talk to the administration, the city manager about it. Honestly, it always comes up here. The meter is part of this. Does it?
I ask you a question? The water meter, how much per gallon?
It would be up to the council to decide on the approach to how they're gonna pay it. But the metering makes people aware on usage, and the meter in my house just makes people more aware so they use less.
Thought it was please maintain the word, please. Thank you. Find any initial comments regarding this report?
So management's going to have to dig in with EDR to try and prioritize the different projects. And I think a phased-in approach is probably the most reasonable given our financial position. But I do want to avoid a situation like the wastewater system where we're under consent to do some things. If we get to that point, we lose the control goes to DEC, and then we are told what to do as opposed to be able to prioritize based on our finances.
So we'll be having further discussions as we get more information, a suggested timeline for the phase in.
Sure. I think our first decision is whether we take advantage of this year's WIA, which is due relatively soon. And we'll have to decide if we need more discussion or if we can come to the council with a recommendation.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, Charles, thank you very much for your participation in this report. Our next presentation is from Kobe Harrington, St. Louis County Human Trafficking Task Force.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kobe Harrington, and I've been working with human trafficking victims here in our county for the past 3 years. Back last August, we got a new grant. Everything I talk about today is privately funded, so it's not taxpayer dollars or anything like that. Pretty much the thing I want to get through to everyone today is human trafficking is happening here in our county, but we do have the resources to help the victims. Okay, so our task force has a few funded partners underneath it. We have the St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, which right now we have one full-time investigator working on cases. And then August 5th, coming up next month, we'll have a second. We're going to start the interviews tomorrow, actually, so the process is happening soon. Underneath that is the St. Lawrence Valley Renewal House. So Renewal House handles all human services. That's where I am stationed as well. So I'll dive into things later about that, what services we actually provide. And then we also have the District Attorney's Office to help the prosecutions, help our investigators work through the cases, and then just be there to teach us about the laws and keep us updated. The immigration attorney is privately funded under Renewal House. We contract them, so any of our victims can have immigration attorney assistance as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so the mission statement is to identify and investigate and work really together as a team, as an MDT, and provide services for victims of human trafficking with a trauma-informed approach. So we know they went through very traumatic situations, but we're there to help them out. We're going to empower them and put them back in the community so they can get homes, start jobs, things like that. And another thing is we're going to increase awareness. So me talking to all of you here today and increasing the knowledge in the local community so that everyone can start making reports on human trafficking, makes it more, human trafficking is invisible, more eyes on it, makes it more visible. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a few goals. Investigate, prosecute with a victim-centered approach. So what that means is if someone comes to Renewal House for victim services and they want to go reach out to law enforcement, we're going to go do that. I'm going to connect them with our investigators. They're going to go through the method. However, if any moment they want to stop that, they're more than welcome to. We allow the victims to control the investigations because that allows them to be empowered and it helps them more in the future. Second, we're going to provide services that empowerment-based delivery. Third, we're going to build capacity. So we have our funded partners, but we also have many organizations here in the community that have helped us out tremendously. One local is the Gabriel Project, which assists us with victims if they have children with clothing. They recently helped me get air conditioners for some of our victims. As of today, one had the day off and drove to Renewal House to give us clothing and stuff for a child of a mother who was recently trafficked. So they've been a wonderful organization that's been helping us out, and we have several throughout the entire county that have been doing so as well. HSI has been tremendous as far as law enforcement. Citizens Advocate, the Malone one especially, has been great. That allows us to stretch our boundaries and work outside the county as well. And at 4, we're going to conduct outreach. So we're really going to the communities with vulnerable populations, and we're talking to the victims directly. We want to hear from them. We want to go meet with them so that they can come and get our services. Okay, if anyone ever sends a tip is going to be received by a task force member. We're immediately going to make that referral over to the sheriff's office for investigators, and we're going to immediately begin a proactive investigation. If it is a tip of a victim themselves, it's going to go to the victim service provider, so it would come to me or our case manager. Okay, so Renewal House in general, we provide the same program here in St. Lawrence County. So any sexual assault that happens within our county, if it's reported within the hours, we will send one SANE nurse, and then we're also going to send an advocate, so that person's not there in the emergency room on their own. We're also going to do orders of protection, so that's working with family court and assisting anyone with those. If for some reason we cannot help them, I can always provide them with a DIY, and then they can do it themselves, and I'll walk them through the process. And then we do a lot of advocacy, so that's working with those agencies that I mentioned earlier. We have some clients also in Buffalo, so it's working with clients that are down there as well and getting them anything that they need. We've assisted them with getting bicycles so they can make it to jobs, so they can start interviewing, so they can start getting housing and things like that. So whenever the victims come to us and they ask for, we're going to try to find a way to make it happen. Whether it's in our funding that we can do it ourselves, or we're going to advocate to make it happen for them. That's where the comprehensive case management comes in. They're going to come to us in our intake process, tell us what their goals are, and then we're going to do everything we can in our power to make those things happen. The emotional support sessions, these are very traumatic situations that they're going through, the things they've seen in here. So we're going to be for them 24/7. We have a hotline they can call any moment. The human trafficking department, we have our own cell phone that they can constantly text at any moment as well. So if they're going through something, they can reach directly out to our case manager. Okay, so when these crises happen, we have a safe housing program. We can house people for weeks at a time. It is designed so that the investigators can do their role, make their environment safer again, and then get these people back to where they were. But this time, it's a safe environment. Or they find a new environment with housing programs that we have, things like that. About half of our clients speak a different language, but that is not a barrier for us. We have the funding in our programs for every partner to have a language service. So we're able to get translators, interpreters to come to us in person sometimes. Sometimes we will fly them across the country just so that we can have a conversation with these people. Because when you're really talking to them and you can talk to them in their language, it bridges that gap. It allows us to be more victim-centered. And then transportation, it's really difficult here in our county. Luckily, we saw that. So we can help them with transporting, whether it's getting their bus tokens or driving them myself. We're going to get them to the places they need and help them out there. And then that immigration and legal services, they have access to the DA, talk to them, any questions there. They can Zoom with our immigration attorney who is in Buffalo. It's tough to find an immigration attorney around here, so we did contract that out. However, they're always available for any questions, helping fill out T visas, U visas, and things like that. So if someone's looking to obtain Renewal House services, they can call our 24/7 confidential hotline. One thing about Renewal House is everything they tell us is extremely confidential, unless they sign the release information allowing us to talk to other agencies. We encourage the client to call. This is because we don't know what situation they're in. So they know their situation better than anyone else. They know whether it's safe or not to make the phone calls. I cannot make cold calls out because I don't know their situation. And then we're going to try responding to everybody within the hour, no matter what the situation is. If they need us in person, obviously sometimes driving across the county, it takes longer than that. We're going to make it there as soon as possible. complete that intake, release information, things like that. And go over it. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the interesting stuff about what we're actually noticing here in the county. So since January, we have a 214% increase in clients. So that means we've identified more victims of human trafficking in our county than ever before. We've provided over 1,300 services to just victims of human trafficking since 2022. 33% of those have been since January this year. So as we continue growing as a task force and getting our name out there, we're finding more and more human trafficking happening. Human trafficking can be identified as either labor trafficking or sex trafficking, but we are finding in some situations it is identified as both. Sex trafficking can be labor trafficking depending on the hours and the environment that they're working in. But some things we're seeing equal amounts of both labor and sex trafficking at the moment. And then we're having, this says 7 different countries, but as a recent case, we're up to 9 different countries we're serving victims of human trafficking. We also, maybe half of our clientele right now is residents of St. Lawrence County. We have several that have never left the county. This is always where they live. So although it does say different countries, different areas, it's happening to people here. It's happening to locals as well. We're seeing all ages, races, genders, sexual orientation. It does not matter. Once you get into looking into human trafficking, traffickers don't care what the person looks like. They don't care the status, as long as they can profit off that and make money. So what we're seeing, the different areas, is domestic servitude, cleaning services. Think someone being locked in a home, being forced to clean without being paid. We're seeing prostitution, escort services, pornography, so forced pornography and being posted online without consent for money. We're seeing drug trafficking. So that is people being forced to traffic drugs or substances, then not getting paid for the services. And then obviously on the farms, the herd of livestock, we're seeing that take place as well. Majority of trafficking is happening in private homes. So it's not happening in the factory that you see. It's happening in the residence that you drive past as you go to Walmart or go to home, right? So because of that, majority of victims know they're trafficked. So it's a huge misconception. It's a huge myth. You might see it in some of the movies where it's somebody in a white van, you get thrown into the back of. We're finding that's not the case. It's aunts, uncles, grandparents, boyfriends, husbands, wives, things like that. Most people know the trafficker before they're being trafficked. There's some sort of relationship being built, turns into domestic trafficking, things like that. Next slide. Okay, so one of our missions, as I stated before, is training and outreach, connecting with as many people as possible. Since January, it has been our best quarter so far. We were trained 1,005 people in our community. So that's talking to people in the hotel services, different agencies, just the public. I've gone out and handed things out. But so far, over 1,000 people in St. Lawrence County have been trained in this matter. We're trying to continue that number and keep it up, stay with pace, because we think that a whole community that knows what human trafficking is, we can really bring stock to it here in the area. But if anyone's ever interested in training or outreach, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. Anyone's willing to listen about human trafficking, I can make a PowerPoint directed towards them directly. So if anyone here in the audience or anyone here like something more in depth for a certain environment, I can do so. I just want to leave it open for any questions, for any comments.
Questions or comments from council?
Where do you get your funding from?
The Howard G. Buffett Foundation, so the Buffett family. Howard Buffett. If you look up the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, there's a whole website that they do.
Any of the people you guys know that?
Please, it's inappropriate. Please, Mr. McNamara, please maintain order. It's inappropriate for the audience.
So really quick question, what do you guys? I know you were at the thing, you know, you're real Democrat.
It's fine. It's fine. I can answer the question. So as of right now, I cannot. I wish I could give you more details and things like that, but we have open investigations going on, so I cannot. And for the safety of my clients, I cannot disclose that. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Can you name the countries?
Multiple smaller ones over in Africa. We've had Italy, Spain, things like that. Canada has been a client. We've had Canadian clients as well. Pretty much anywhere.
I mean, you serve victims of 7 different countries.
Yeah.
Is that, are we on the same page here?
Yes, yeah, we're in different countries, many smaller ones in Africa. So I don't work with the clients firsthand, so it's tough for me to remember their intake forms and things like that. But I run the statistics and I do look at it. I think Uganda is number one. We have many African countries that we're finding right now.
You know, Councilor Powers used the term deep. This is pretty incredible. It's hard to believe this is happening.
Yes.
In our own community.
Yes.
We talk
I hear that
about
very often.
people out there, just from what I've learned over the last couple of months. It's amazing, and I'm glad that Augsburg Police Department is part of this. And all the other municipalities in the area joining this too as part of it.
I'm speaking at Messina tomorrow and then Canton on Wednesday.
Yeah, I talked to Officer Flynn in Messina a couple of days ago. He said they're going to sign up.
That's great. We really appreciate the community joining. Really the numbers is the powers in the county, it's stopping it here in St. Lawrence County. So we appreciate any help. Just people knowing about it really helps.
Keep in mind, there's also both of you in the back, you know, the trauma that you're dealing with these individuals, don't forget about yourselves either. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, this is a heavy.
Thank you.
I'm curious how we can do an outreach to the community, because I think people want to become more aware of what's happening and how they can help.
I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention. So with the Gabriel project, we're actually working together. It's looking at September 25th. We plan on doing something here in Ogdensburg. So it's still in design phases when we figure that out. But if I get any more information, I can definitely pass it along.
And I think that if we can offer the Biskie Center perhaps for a night or two throughout the year,
That'd be wonderful.
you know, if the council agrees, I think it would be great to have yourself and maybe our police department try and raise awareness or the ability to raise awareness in our community.
That'd be wonderful. I'd be more than happy to connect with you to make that happen.
What about the schools? Do you go to the schools and talk to the teachers?
So right now we're finding it to be difficult because we want to, if we're talking to, I have talked to teachers and counselors and things like that. At some point we would like to connect with children. However, we're trying to find a way where we can do that very calmly and corrected in the community because we don't want to upset parents as well as upset children with these topics because of how hard they are. But that it is down the road to make those connections stronger in the future.
Kobe, do you see your increasing numbers partially because of the awareness now of it? Or is it twofold? It's happening more frequently because of the economic situation many people are in, besides the awareness that people are looking for is knowing of your services?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I believe a strong portion of it is the awareness. So what I do with the intake is I take all that information and I direct where our training happens. So if we're finding a lot of clients are coming from a specific area, just say, for example, Canton Potsdam Hospital, right? They see a lot of people. I'm like, hey, I have 4 clients that have been here at some point in the past. Why is it not being caught? I'm going to go there and now we do nurse onboarding training. So all the new nurses, we train them. We train emergency rooms and things like that. It all came from looking at the data that we have and targeting where that data is taking place.
I think many people don't realize what human trafficking is. They don't even know what to look for in this kind of area. They do think of, the van, the person waiting at the bus stop, that kind of thing to take advantage of predators.
Yes.
But they don't realize how closely it can be to a family. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, exactly. I'm usually at some farmers markets throughout the year as well. If there's any events going on, I know the barbecue happens. I usually have a table set up and all those things too. So if you guys ever see me, feel free to stop in and say hi.
One more question. You mentioned the agriculture. That's one agriculture license on.
I don't want to speak on their agency. I just partner with them. We use them to advocate and get resources. I do not work for them, and I don't have any preference.
Any other questions or comments from council?
I just want to say it's tremendous work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information, Colby, the work of the task force, the work of Renewal House, and certainly the importance of collaboration with the various municipalities to deal with this obviously serious problem. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We don't have any public hearings tonight. That brings us to first appearance. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and give that 5 minutes.
Good evening, council, mayor, city manager, William Snyder. I was looking through, the municipal code, and I was wondering if the council could provide some clarification tonight on a couple things. First, under chapter 221 zoning, article 1, general provisions, section 221-1 is the title. This chapter shall be known and may be cited as the city of Ogdensburg zoning ordinance. In section 221-6, the title is definitions, which says the following definitions of words and terms shall be used in the interpretation, administration, and enforcement of this chapter. In 221-6, it lists the definition of a home occupation, which reads, home occupation / profession, a business operated out of a home. Specifically, it is defined as an accessory occupation or a business activity which results in a product or service for financial gain that is conducted in whole or part on the residential premises. The definition in chapter 215 under water and the definition in chapter 221 under zoning are conflicting. According to chapter 215, it's only if the space is regularly used for business purposes. And according to chapter 221, it is any business activity which results in financial gain that is conducted on whole or part of the residential premises. So, according to the zoning definition of a home occupation, the Code Enforcement Office has the authority to charge everyone known to operate a business out of their home under chapter 215-38. This definition would also make null and void the affidavits that were sent. So those people that replied no should not be charged since they do fit the definition under the zoning code. So my question to council is the Code Enforcement Office going to enforce chapter 221-6 zoning definition of a home occupation and charge everyone who has a home business under chapter 215-38? I would like to think so. Second is the second thing is the fee being charged under chapter 215-38. It's been said many times that it's $165. Can council just clarify that the fee is going to increase every time the water and sewer rates increase? Because for someone that's going to be operating a home business for the next 10 or 20 years, that fee is going to get quite substantial and probably not affordable. So thank you for listening. I would like to hand a copy to the city clerk.
Thank you.
Hello, friends. Before I get into my spiel I had prepared, I'd like to state that the guy who talked about the situation with the intake water and all that, the cheapest it'll be is $20 million after you get grant money and stuff. I'm gonna do the old Mike Skelly. Where are we gonna get the money for that? How are we gonna pay for that? He said it was very important, or we've been avoiding this for a long time. That's a good question. We know the city. There's no way in a million years you guys could afford that. That's a major problem. As well as the fella after him, real interesting to know whether or not that organization he belongs to aids illegal immigrants, or if we're relating illegal immigrants to victims of human trafficking, which New York State loves to do that. The Democrat Party loves to do that. There's millions of dollars funneled from taxpayer money into these programs. They knew the journey they were going on to begin with. They're the ones who put themselves and their children in that situation, in my opinion. Hold your hand over your head, Donna. I see you through the TV. That's fine. I'll get into my main spiel now. After May 12th meeting, and I've said some controversial things, and Mayor Tooley clearly doesn't like what I have to say, the head of codes enforcement, Ken Stahl, showed up at my house the following morning. And he had questions about a shed that's on my property that's been in the process of being constructed over a year. I started it when after this administration had already made rules that due to the square footage size of the building, you didn't need a permit. So I put the building up and it was framed in the spot it's in right now. And I did have codes get a hold of me. It was taller than 10 feet. It was under 50 square feet under the allowed amount, which is 150. It's about 100. And they told me to remedy this, I just needed to get a building permit, and that I needed a permission slip from my landlord stating I could have it there, which that's not even in the codes. That was strange. But I did what they asked, and they gave me a building permit, and I bought it. I explained all this to the codes person the day after May 12th meeting. He then explained to me who the complainant was, which is a neighbor of mine that I've had problems with for a long time, and he has numerous code violations on several properties there, blatantly obvious, but apparently our blindfolds were onto that. It then became question whether or not my shed was too close to the back of the property I rent, where the city's right-of-way is. Then the code enforcement employee asked me where the line was, and my reply to him was, you're showing up to my house telling me that my building is too close to the city's line, and then you have the audacity to ask me where the line is. Clearly the city doesn't even know. So why would he have even showed up there after I was given a permit when the code saw where the building was to do that? I can tell you why: corruption. I was also informed by Mr. Stahl that Fonda Cronus and Andrea Smith, when she hadn't even worked here at that point in time, she was gone from her employment here, were figuring this out and he'd get back to me. Well, I just talked to him the other day and I still haven't heard a word. Can't get a clear answer back. And he did tell me that morning that it wasn't over and that he had bigger fish to fry and that I'd be hearing in the future about it. Late May or early June, after the following meeting when I spoke, I was personally trespassed from the Diamond property via phone call from Chief Kearns, and I was told I would be arrested for trespassing for bringing my dogs down to the river where I have for the last 9 years. Although many other various areas in the city are parks just like that, and I'll just give you one, what they call the Grains or Wheat House Bay, down to Wheat House Bay, that Bridgeport parking lot. People hang out there all the time, do whatever the hell they want. That's perfectly fine and dandy. You guys all said that Diamond was closed down due to liability issues. Now let's talk about some liability issues. The lawsuit with Jerry Mack, the pending lawsuit with Mike Skelly against the city, the shooting that happened at the police station accidentally, supposedly, a police cruiser being left in drive and driven into Wheat House Bay where we had to get a crane, emergency late night crane to pull the car out of the water. The police station being raided by the FBI for child porn on the computer. The list goes on. In my opinion, city's employees have caused way more liability issues than any of the citizens. After the codes and police Kearns treated me the way they did after I spoke at these meetings, I wonder if I'm dealing with the local Ogdensburg mafia or just communists. Like I said, the complainant against me had numerous violations right next to where the codes employee was talking to me, yet he had his blindfolds on. Now I'd like to talk about what this administration has done.
Please,
Since it started. No, I'm going to finish my speech and just let other people, and please, you would be nothing but a corrupt mayor than to let me finish.
Please.
Because I haven't been inappropriate. I haven't attacked you. Just relax and let me finish.
There'll be another opportunity
Fees.
to go on to it.
You guys have added fees to daycare providers so infants and children can't have access to
Mr.
affordable water.
Collins, will you
Your fees,
Yeah,
several
Mr.
fees at the
McNamara,
police department, fees for body camera footage, fees for the city dump. Why don't you guys tax oxygen, the citizens' oxygen at this point? The last meeting before the 11th hour, before November's election, you guys pointed out Ogdensburg financial crisis. Angela Gray made it crystal clear to you 6 years ago. Yet you all act like you're just figuring this out right now. Am I all right? Thought so. The gates at the Diamond property were closed via improper procedure. Let me read something from Google. I can show you right now. I appreciate you bearing with me as I get up here and I'm just such a terrible person trying to address my city council as far as Mayor Tooley is concerned. In general, first of all, the Diamond property was open years ago when the flooding happened at Morset Park and it was closed down. And the council voted to open that area down there up to the public in the meantime. Now, if an area is open to the general public via the council, if you Google it, in general, a city manager cannot unilaterally shut down a city property that was previously open to the public without the consensus of council. And I've told each and every one of you that are willing to answer my phone calls this. The council manager form of government in cities operating under the council manager form, the city council is the policy-making body where the city manager is responsible for implementing those policies and overseeing day-to-day operations. The manager acts under the direction of the supervision of the council. The council has the authority to make the decisions regarding public property, including its opening or closing, and the city manager is bound by those council's actions. Now I can keep going, but that pretty much, says what I had to say about that. Be leaders, not followers. Use the tools you're given as city council members to resolve these types of issues with the citizens, known as resolutions. Each and every one of you has the power to bring forth a resolution at any council meeting, whether the city manager or city attorney or whoever likes it or not. I've had 4 of you tell me you support the gates being open at Diamond, and I've asked a couple of you to put forth the resolution, and you tell me you don't have the support. I believe you have the support. You just don't want to do it. And I think you fear fond. I don't know what it is. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. It's a plain and simple thing. If there's enough no votes, it'd be done and over with. Same thing with the child care providers. Someone should have put forth the resolution. Now I'm going to end this with this November, I'm going to run for city council as a write-in candidate. And I hope that the media doesn't ignore, they've really ignored anything I brought to this council. I hope they make this public. The citizens have a right to a council member who's actually willing to put forth resolutions to resolve these issues. And I'm just really irritated at watching the way you guys run this government. It's uncalled for, and the citizens deserve a lot better than this. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. We'll wait here.
Okay, I'm back here again. Been here since September. We went down this road that he's wanted to choose with giving us the double taxes. You want to pat yourself on the back, give yourself raises. You just haven't done anything. A taxpayer just brought up all this stuff to you. Did you all know that stuff tonight? You didn't. Don't say you did. You sit here, you guys get paid $100,000 to do your jobs. I've done more for this community than some people that paid $100,000. I bring a lot of revenue to the city with fishing. I'm not doing it no more. That right there, emblem that's on our jerseys for the Northern New Jersey Bassmasters will be removed next year. I'm done with this stupidness. You haven't listened to us. You didn't want nothing to do with it. You just want it to go away. Well, it's not going to, because as tax council members brought it to our attention, we're moving on a different direction because you don't want to listen to us. The porta potty at Patterson Street, I never asked for that for the Junior Bassmasters. We will not be fishing out of Patterson Street this year. I will not bring a fishing organization to Hawkins. And right now is your prime time, because that's the only thing you guys are doing. Messina right now wants to come here. With everything that was in Messina this weekend, they want to come. You're hiring people to bring the community together. You don't even know the community. I don't get paid money to do this, but I've done a lot for this community. I can have, unlike some.
Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time. You will have 5 minutes.
I do not see any hands raised, Mayor.
That brings us to correspondence. And we received correspondence today that I want to have recorded in tonight's meeting minutes. So I'm going to ask City Clerk Kathy Jock to read.
Dear Mayor Tully, we are writing to inform you that you have met the requirements necessary to maintain your municipality's status as a pro-housing community for 2025. The City of Ogdensburg will continue to be able to access the $650 million in state discretionary funding programs that is available exclusively to pro-housing communities. This is an exciting time for the pro-housing community program. Governor Hochul's enacted fiscal year 2026 budget contains a new $100 million pro-housing supply infrastructure fund to assist with critical infrastructure projects necessary to create new housing, such as sewer and water infrastructure upgrades. The budget also contains $5 million to assist communities to design and adopt pro-housing policies such as master plans, zoning text updates, and streamlined permitting procedures. These proposals will continue to support the state's partnership with communities like yours. We are excited that you have chosen to stay committed to the Pro-Housing Communities program, and we look forward to our continued partnership to ensure that all New Yorkers have access to a safe, affordable, equitable place to live. Sincerely, Ruth Ann Vinoskas, Commissioner, CEO, New York State Homes and Community Renewal.
Thank you for reading, Kathy. Again, I'm sure council remembers this was a program initiated by the governor a year ago, and that to maintain eligibility for municipalities to access certain grants available to help economic development, you have to maintain your status as a pro-housing community. So certainly that letter today is welcome. Next, we have our consent agenda, that the claims as enumerated in General Fund Warrant 13-2025, $552,191.18, and Library Warrant number 13-2025, the amount of $0, and Capital Fund Warrant number 13-2025, the amount of $819, and Community Development Fund Warrant number 13-2025, the amount of $121, and Community Renewal Fund Warrant number 13-2025, the amount of $0, as audited, being the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tully,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
yes,
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
yes,
approved.
We do not have any appointments tonight, so that brings us to items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by City Manager Bob Wilkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution authorizing the city manager to act as the authorized official for the city of Ogdensburg for the NBRC funding for the Mainstream Pump Station project.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Selly,
yes,
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
yes,
Mayor Tully,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronis.
A resolution to authorize and support submission of a grant application for the update of the city of Ogdensburg's comprehensive plan through New York State Department of State Smart Growth Community Planning and Zoning Grant Program.
So I'm here to introduce this.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments? I think this is an important first step to try to get funding, as we know that the comprehensive plan is. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
yes,
Mayor Tully,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
yes,
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronis.
A resolution to authorize and support submission of a grant application or grant applications for the City of Ogdensburg Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan Update and the LWRP project implementation through New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Program.
I'll make that motion.
Second, questions or comments? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Counselor Trim?
yes,
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Selly?
yes,
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Approved.
That brings us to old business. Does anyone have any old business this evening?
So, yes. Arlene has come up here again tonight, and I respect that, Arlene. You know my position, I just assume waive the home business extra fee. I think at this point, I know the situation's a lot different than when we first started talking about it. And I think in the future, maybe when we go into the budget here, the council look at that and we get rid of that fee. So, just want to throw that on the table.
Any other old business? That brings us to new business. Does anyone have any new business this evening? Hearing none, that brings us to items for discussion. And we will begin with City Manager Fonda.
I would invite the controller up to give you a sales tax report.
Good evening, council. Just to present the mid-year sales tax outlook. Our year-to-date collections have trailed behind the same point in time last year. So we are down January through current, overall 3.5%, but the last quarter was down 7.5%. Our budget for the year is $2,950,000. That is probable we will not meet that budget. The estimated shortfall, and working in concert with the city manager, we can readily predict we will be short a six-figure number. Should that number come in at 100,000, 250, or 300,000, it's anybody's guess. But we did do some modeling, and if that same 7.5% maintained throughout the rest of the fiscal year, we will be under budget $250,000 for the year, not inconsequential to the overall general fund budget. When we match up the sales tax collections that we went through this with previous years when we preempted, this may be new to some, with where the consumer spending is for the year, we have collected through May's consumer spending. There is about a 2-month lag in that process. So we do have, unfortunately, lower bridge traffic. That's also a contributing factor to that. So it's necessary that we look very soon to rectify our budget and council to make a decision if the anticipated shortfall should come out of fund balance, or if we should look to, in the next 6, I guess we have 5 months left of the year, reduce appropriations. It is very, like I said, very, very probable we will be behind budget. We do have time to react, and it is in my best advice to react.
Questions or comments from council?
We get some suggestions on the potential appropriations.
Certainly, the data is very, very raw right now, so we want to make sure we understand it. The last number we received was Friday afternoon, so we haven't had a ton of time to crunch it, but certainly we will continue, if it's council's wish, to look through and cut and save as much as we can in our operations budget. But it's a decision of council as to whether it wants to utilize fund balance to cover the whole, operational appropriations that haven't been spent yet to cover the whole, or a combination of each.
Yeah, right. You know, so we need the analysis. Are there areas of under expenditure in the budget as well? Are there areas where revenue has exceeded the budget? Just so we can see. You know, to get as complete a picture as we can before making the decision on funding, either through fund balancing or reduce the spending within the budget. So, yeah, we'll be looking for some recommendations from management for that.
Thank you.
Still yours, Tom.
Alrighty, city project list, something I planned on providing and Councilor Scamperly asked for it, so here it is. I'm not going to go through the whole list. We'll be here for a long period of time. I will highlight a few projects and then certainly take questions on any that are here. The first one I'd like to highlight is the Main Street Pump Station, which is substantially complete except for one new project, which is the replacement of a generator. That's out to bid and we're hoping to move that through fairly quickly. Then that will be pretty well squared away. Next item down are the pump stations in the consent order, heavy industrial and South Water. We've received EFC funding to move forward on that. And being in the consent order, we are required to have that project substantially completed by the end of next year. And I think we're on track to get that done barring something unforeseen to happen. Also like to point out 2 lines down the FEMA dock repair project. We have actually received the FEMA cash. So it is segregated in an account and we are ready to move forward. Bidding is done and the contractor has a notice to proceed, and come October 1, we will get into that area and get it completed as quickly as possible. I'd like to point out the last project on the first page is New York Swims. Council did approve the engineering company. That was GYMO, if you'll recall at the last meeting. We've had an on-site visit with those folks and engineering is moving forward on that. We've actually provided all the information that DASNY requires to move forward to a grant agreement. On the next page is the Green Resiliency Grant. That is for rehabbing the downtown parking lot, and we're moving forward on that as quickly as possible. Last 2 I'd like to focus on are the Restore 9 projects that we just received a couple of months ago information on. One is to rehab an old warehouse in the Marina District into a microbrewery, and the other is to rehab stone buildings into what is called the River Street Lofts. That is a $4.5 million in total grants between those 2 projects in the Marina District area. So I want to focus on the fact that these are new awards, but we're moving forward very quickly. I've gotten information from ESD that I've been sharing and coordinating with both developers on that. And then the last project I'd like to talk about is the Maple City Rail Trail project. That was stalled and has been stalled for a number of years, but we're going to try and revive it. And lucky Tyler Park has been assigned that. So he's already reached out to the funders. He actually has a contact at DOT as well, so he's going to utilize that contact to see if we can't get this back on track. I think that's a very nice project for our residents to be able to have. So those are just kind of the highlights of those projects. There's a lot going on, and I'm happy to answer any questions or get back to you if I can't answer the questions on any of the projects on the list.
Questions or comments?
I have one question, and I know that you've got a lot on this list, and it is impressive, and I'm glad to have this update. But we had talked back with separation of stormwater with a number of the commercial buildings that have roof drains and things that are going into that. We had talked about starting with our city buildings and looking at those. Is that somewhere on the radar with this, or is that on a different list that we're looking at?
Well, we're hoping to include that in with an I&I Phase 2 project, and then we have applied for that grant.
Thank you.
Yep.
New York Swims, I see it's a significant local contribution. Is there any available funding that you see to help us with our local share?
We're going to apply for some in the CFA this year. We'll see what happens.
RVRDA, anything like that?
Their funding is very limited. I don't think they would be able to help us out. We received one grant this year from them. It was $10,000, and our ask was more than that. So even if we were to get something like that, it would be marginal at best. Well, it depends. We've identified a parks program that we think is probably our best shot. I expect the worst and hope for the best. So we'll plan to have to pay for it out of pocket. And if a grant comes in, then I guess we have found money and plenty of uses for it, by the way.
All right, thank you, Founder. Yes.
Charter Review Commission, I'm going to ask Kathy, because she's the point person on that, to give you a quick update.
Sure, good evening. So the 2025 Charter Review Commission has completed their review of the city charter. Following their June 11th meeting, the local law outlining the recommended changes was prepared. It has been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. Their plan is at the July 28th council meeting, Chairman Morrison will make a presentation to council outlining and highlighting their recommendations, and council will be presented with a resolution to call for a public hearing. We anticipate the public hearing would be held at the August 11th meeting, at which time council would be presented with the local law for consideration.
Questions from Kathy? Thank you for that update. Next.
Okay, next, the 2024 audit update. I'm happy to report that the audit or draft audit is available. Audit committee is going to meet very soon. And we plan on presenting the 2024 audit at the next meeting, which is the 28th of July. And I'd like to thank the Comptroller's Office, in particular, Angela and Jennifer Wilson, who both took a lot of effort to get this done. As you know, the last couple of audits were not timely. This one is extremely timely, and a big shout out to both of them, especially Jen Wilson, who took this one by the horns and got it done.
Yes, so certainly council's appreciative of having a more timely audit presented to the public. So thank you for your efforts in working with our auditors. Anyone else items for discussion today?
I just have two, Your Honor, and perhaps one of them you're going to bring up, but La Siege is happening this weekend at the Fort property. So if you want to see reenactment, if you want to go down and see part of our history, our living history, that's going on Saturday and Sunday. Secondly, as part of the Crazy 80s reunion, I have been asked to facilitate a tour of the Marina District, just going and walk about with some of the businesses, talk about what's going on there, so that anyone that is home for Seaway Festival or any of our citizens, people in the area want to hear what's going on there. It will start at Sweet Emily's at 10 a.m. We're just going to do a walkabout with that, probably last a little over an hour. We've contacted all but one or two of the businesses that we don't have contact information for to ask them if they would participate, and we've had a good showing with that. And I will be getting an email out. I've talked briefly to the city manager about it, but I'll be getting an email out to him now that I've heard from, I think, everyone that I will, so he can share that with city council as an invitation. But again, that's the Friday of Seaway Festival, July 25th, 10 a.m. at Sweet Emily's.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else items for discussion?
I'm not sure if this is the speeding on Morris Street. Is it possible to put stop signs on every, like you go to Watertown, they have stop signs, four-way stops. Poor guy that had his cat killed. Is there something we could do to just maybe try it on a Morris Street maybe or something to see if every other block or every third block to maybe slow that traffic down there? My brother lives on Morris Street. It's a busy street. There's no business. There's a couple businesses on there that would be impacted, but something to help those folks out maybe.
Fairly residential.
Yeah, so you got to stop every other block. I don't see the problem. I don't know why it needs. I don't think it needs a big study. I'm not sure who controls the traffic. I think in the city it's us. I think. So I don't see why we couldn't.
Usually go with the police chief on some sort of recommendation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so management
had a survey done.
Management did discuss this, and I think I shared what our findings were, but I'll let the chief expound on that.
So we've done studies on Morris Street my entire career.
Yeah.
There's been complaints of speeding there. I'll be frank with you. There's not a speeding problem on Moore Street. There's a high traffic problem on Moore Street. It's a very busy street. It's a thoroughfare, right? It's got a lot of volume of traffic. So it's a high volume. It's not a speed problem. 30 miles an hour, 33 miles an hour when you're standing on the curb line or sitting on your front porch looks very fast. But it's got a lot of volume.
Because it's a through street.
Because it's a through street, right? Same as like Patterson Street, right? It's got a lot of volume going through it. Moore Street is narrow, where Patterson Street is a wider street, right? So when you have a narrow street, I say relatively narrow, standard size city street, not wider like Patterson or Ford would be, it makes the perception even that much faster as a driver has to weave in and out around parked cars and whatnot. It just makes that perception even more that the cars appear going faster. Stop signs, do they slow cars down? Yes, between stop sign to stop sign, but that doesn't help with your volume. So now you're going to move your traffic patterns, what you do, right? So now you're going to change Moore Street from being one of your main thoroughfares to now you're going to put all your congestion onto Patterson Street, right? So now you made all your traffic go to that street. So yes, you helped out the residents on Moore Street, but now you just moved all the traffic to.
Makes sense.
And I will tell you our highest rate of accidents are because of people fail to yield right away or fail to stop at stop signs. So we add more stop signs. We ask statistically we'd have more accidents because of more stop signs. So as tragic as it is, there's been pets lost on that roadway. There's been pets lost on every roadway in the city, and as unfortunate as an animal lover, I totally understand that. But I mean, those are the facts. Come budget time, there's going to be some tools that we're bringing forward to the city manager and ultimately to you folks for budget consideration, where we can really show what the traffic data is across the city, speeds in real time, traffic volume in real time and past. We'll be able to go back in data 13 months. So hopefully that's something the city can afford, and we can talk more on that come budget time.
Sure, thanks. The other issue is, it's not really an issue, I guess, with CUA Festival coming up. Again, I worked for the DPW when I was in college many years ago. And we would clean, I know we have an issue with budgets for the DPW cleaning streets. Would it be possible to just clean the brush from, say, J Street to the river? Just have, they used to send me and another couple guys out with a pitchfork and shovels in a small dump truck. Just clean those streets, because, we're having the big parade coming. We want we want the people to come to Augsburg. It's kind of embarrassing when someone comes to watch the parade and they open their car door on a pile of rotten brush. So I don't know if it's possible, but maybe some of the summer help could grab a pitchfork and a couple of shovels and a small dump truck, and just a simple request from J Street to the river.
Councilor Tebow, we'll look at it. I can't make any promises. If you recall, because I know you're maybe not recall because you're new on council, we are undertaking a water project at East David Street. So that is going to utilize a lot of our workflow and our workforce. And we've had to shift different projects into time that may have been spent picking up brush. So, and that was a choice that council made and directed us to do so. So we'll look at it. If we can pull it off, we will, but I'm
just thinking 2 days.
Well, it's easy to say 2 days, but what doesn't get done in those 2 days because of it is the question. And so we'll have to evaluate that.
Okay.
Anyone else?
When do we put down the paving? The middle streets, we start that. It's got to be coming up
next week. This week?
Could we say that again, just so people that are?
Sure. Thursday is when paving begins.
Thank you.
And I do have a couple. A week ago, Saturday, the Elbows Up Rally was held at City Hall, and organizers spoke to me during and after the event to express their appreciation of Chief Kearns and local law enforcement for their willingness to work with them to try to make sure the rally was as peaceful as possible. And one of the head organizers mentioned to me that in talking about the role of law enforcement, that Chief Kearns had mentioned to her that he took an oath. His oath was to protect the Constitution, which includes the right to lawful assembly. So I just wanted to pass that message along from you, Court. It was very much appreciated by the organizers. And then it's already been mentioned in part, but again, Seaway Festival, besides the 4th, the Seas this weekend. The Seaway Festival starts Saturday and will run for 9 days. And so hopefully we'll see a lot of activity here in the city during that 9-day period. And then finally, with regards to the questions raised tonight about the possible confliction of definitions within the code, if management could just take a look at that and report back to council and public at our next meeting. Brings us to citizen participation. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, friends. It's interesting, you just brought up the Elbows Up for Canada, Mr. Tooley, and the way the law enforcement responded, or the way that they told you they were pleased with the response. We've also had a No Kings protest here. I call these imported protests because most of the people there that were at both of the protests, they don't even reside in the city of Augsburg. From the pictures I can see, and if you guys could ever prove me better, you're more than welcome to. Many of you had Kamala Harris stickers in the windows of your vehicles too during the last presidential election, and this council failed to congratulate Donald Trump and the 77 million Americans who voted for him on his win. I'm not surprised. That speaks a lot about this governing body. Trump supporters, we know he's doing a good job. We have much better things to do on July 5th, the day after Independence Day, than wave across the river at Canada like we got mental issues or whatever. That's fine. Augsburg has plenty of its own issues. I don't think anyone should be spending any time over in Canada talking to the mayor in Prescott or anything like that about these issues. The decline in traffic coming across the Augsburg-Prescott Bridge has been going on for over a decade, and that has nothing to do with the international trade war. That is just nothing but a political PR stunt on your behalf. Now back to the law enforcement thing about it. Children from Ivy Ridge had a protest here, and they were sexually, mentally, and physically abused. And the documentary on YouTube and all of the other videos that were confiscated from that building, you just put on YouTube in general, more than speak for themselves. When that protest took place, we had concrete barriers out here, a DPW worker being paid overtime on Saturday to be sitting down here in a payloader, and a bunch of law enforcement officers, some from Augsburg and some from other agencies, standing out here with assault weapons, like they were worried those abused kids, or there were probably people in their young to mid 30s at that point in time, what they may or may not do. I would like to see if there's any more Democrat protests in the future for them to get the same treatment, honestly. And that speaks volumes for this place, honestly, what I just said. Also, I noticed the other day this is a different subject. I noticed a flyer in a city building for citizens advocates, and they were supporting free Narcan, fentanyl test strips, so people can see if there's fentanyl in the hard drugs that they want to use, clean needles, the list goes on. Unbelievable. That place should be called the Devil's Advocate, not Citizens Advocate, because I don't know what citizens they're advocating for besides the junkies that live in this city. Thank you.
Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand.
I have to laugh, we're just talking about all these events this weekend. The Sandbar Classic Sunday out of Hosmer's.
That started years ago with the rec director in Augsburg, but they let the rec director go because the Augsburg had no money. But people in Augsburg wanted the Sandbar Classic back. We started it back. We've never asked you guys for a penny. We do it ourselves for our community. That's Sunday. Why don't you get up and see what it's like and come down and see the fishermen, the fun time we have? We do not release dead fish. The fishermen are taking a beating, a harassment. That can be charged from DEC. We do not release dead fish. You can go to my car. I have probably 20 fizz kits in it right now. Every boat in my club has a fizz kit. We don't release dead fish. We have a cooler. We have a guy that takes the fish. But this community is doing a number on fishing. You could bring the elites here. The elites arrive in Waddington. They set up their stage. Our crew vouch for this. His son's in my club. Do they do anything? Have everything ready for all. It's not people from Waddington. It's people from Augsburg that go to Waddington to help me and my club members that have been running for 15 years for junior bassmen. Never have asked you for it because I have good parents, grandparents. We sit good. We can budget to keep going. Unlike you, I will ask you one more time. Will you work with us and have a meeting over this tax? Because you heard it tonight out of your own codes. You did not know that. So either you want to work with us or we go a different route that's going to cost the taxpayers more money. You want to pat yourself on the back or get another raise on that? We want answers. Either work with us or we move a different direction. Because this is stupid. We've been here for months and nothing has been done. Nothing.
Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 2 minutes.
I do not see any hands raised, Mayor.
All right, we have a resolution to adjourn to executive session, which I will introduce. Whereas City Manager Fonda Cronus requested an executive session with members of the Augsburg City Council to discuss proposed pending or current litigation. And whereas New York State Open Meetings Law permits City Council to adjourn to executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that City Council adjourn to executive session to discuss proposed pending or current litigation. And be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session. I so move. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Counselor Trim? Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Silly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Approved.
Right, and I note that council will be inviting City Controller Angela Gray to join us in this executive session, and that there may be action following the executive session.
Arlene, what time is that on Sunday?
Walk, definitely waiting. They can play into our day.
No, I didn't. I'm sure I didn't mention that. I didn't.
Because they don't know.
I'm not really
You're the only
fishing
one
on
that sticks
Thursday,
up
so
for
I don't
us.
know why. So I have to get the date there.
No, that's why I understand. We hear people that pull us out. We don't ask the city for any money for that. We do it. This is the thing. They're chasing people away. Just because we don't work for the city, don't mean we don't care about the city. We all put our pants on the same way. Well, me too. This is ridiculous. They won't
Sometimes they
listen
gotta
to us.
smile a little.
Let me know if you can stop that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Doing well, sir. How are you? See you shortly. See you shortly.
So that was. Okay. Sorry.
Great to see you. I didn't have to see you, you're all set.
Anytime. It was nice to see you. Take care. Night, Chief.
Waiting patiently, I see. God bless you.
Absolutely, sir. That's what we do. Oh, Kathy, you're still here?
Yes, ma'am.
It's still-
Oh. Fine, me.
Okay, so let the record reflect upon returning from executive session, all members of council are still present. I would note that before we went into executive session, Councilor Trim disconnected from the meeting. She did not participate in executive session, therefore she has not returned to join us. All right, coming out of executive sessions, we do have a resolution. This resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Paul V. Nolan Esquire for legal consultation services to assist the city in protecting and advancing its interests in the Ogdensburg hydroelectric project. Whereas the city of Ogdensburg would benefit greatly by retaining and employing an attorney to assist the city in protecting and advancing its interests in the Ogdensburg hydroelectric project, which is currently licensed under FERC project number 9821. And whereas the services to be performed by the attorney will involve representing the city's interests in the upcoming licensing of the Ogdensburg hydroelectric project by Ampersand Ogdensburg Hydro before the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and assisting the city of Ogdensburg city attorney with several matters that involve FERC's regulation of the project. And whereas the city can best be served during the certain negotiations between parties by having an expert on hydroelectric facilities, their operations, and the regulations that pertain to the facility and its operators. And whereas both the city manager and city attorney contend Paul V. Nolan Esquire is best positioned to provide the city with these services. And whereas Paul V. Nolan Esquire has provided a quote of a maximum rate per hour for consultant services of $300 per hour, with a contract term of July 1, 2025 through March 31, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council authorizes the city manager to execute a contract with Paul V. Nolan Esquire to assist the city in protecting and advancing its interests in the Ogdensburg hydroelectric project, which is currently licensed under FERC project number 9821. And be it further resolved that funding for this service will come from fiscal year 2025 budget code AA 1420.515. I so move.
Second.
Discussion. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Selly?
yes,
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Approved.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.